The upcoming DLC isn't just significant because of its expansion of the game with a brand new map, additional challenges, and a fresh story direction. It's where we, the player agents, were first activated as part of the second wave of Division agents. It was here that we'd first meet up with Faye Lau and then rendezvous with Commander Chang at the landing zone. Of course, we all know how this played out, with Chang and a good chunk of the second wave agents being blasted out of the sky while in the midst of landing by the LMB and Aaron Keener. In this video, I'd like to talk about the direction we could be heading once we've crossed that bridge into Brooklyn, and some of the repercussions of the decisions that it's looking like we'll be forced to make. Could Keener become a key figure in reshaping the SHD's approach to global threats? Or would this inevitably lead to betrayal and chaos? As a quick recap of what has happened up until these events that are currently playing out, after Faye Lau went rogue and sided with the Black Tusk, we would end up tracking her down and eliminating her. Shortly after this, we would learn that she was actually trying to take down the Black Tusk from within by posing as a newly defected agent from the Division. Eventually Kelso would learn of this, and thus went AWOL. In New York, she would find clues as to what Faye was actually doing, and would ultimately run into Keener, who somehow had survived our encounter on Liberty Island. She would learn through Keener and her discussions that Faye was actually working with him. Keener would explain that his intention was actually to take down Natalia, the Black Tusk, Kelvin and his hunters, along with anyone else who was helping them, including Division agents still devoted to Kelvin. In addition to this information, Keener also provides her with knowledge on how Natalia and Kelvin are collaborating with a different organization known as the Cabal. Armed with this intel, Kelso goes against everything she ever thought she knew and joined up with Keener and Parnell. While we, the agent, were following Kelso's trail, Keener would make contact with us. After completing a number of trials assigned to us by Keener successfully, we would eventually meet with him face to face. After disposing of the Black Tusk who were also hunting him down, Keener would hand himself in to Manny at the White House. There, Manny is now waiting for Keener to be vetted by Kelso before making a decision on whether he could be worked with or not. So at this point it's looking fairly likely that we'll be teaming up with Keener, and based on the DLC location, we'll be working alongside him in Brooklyn. So what could this look like? Joining Keener, the Division's most wanted man, going to an area that is presumably under his control, and utilizing an AI that we really don't know enough about at this stage. The SHD, an organization built on the principles of order and control in a post-pandemic world, has had an interesting and very eventful relationship with Keener. Once a trusted agent, Keener's actions, most notably his betrayal of the SHD and the release of the modified Eclipse virus, left him as the most wanted person in the United States. However, as the country continues to descend further into chaos through the actions of Natalia and Kelvin, the Division appear to have found themselves in a situation where they need Keener's help in order to prevent even greater threats from hindering the objectives of the SHD. If the SHD is desperate enough to reclaim order, they may have very little choice but to cooperate with the very man who once nearly destroyed them. Collaborating with Keener could mark a radical shift in the SHD's philosophy. For an organization that prides itself on integrity and commitment to protecting civilians, forming an alliance with one of its most dangerous opponents could represent its moral downfall. But the question arises, can the SHD truly trust Keener after everything he's done? Or are they simply willing to sacrifice their principles for the sake of their own survival? I won't talk about this section too much, as I covered my thoughts around the potential future of Anna's influence in a previous video, but in the context of an alliance with Keener, what role would Anna play, particularly when considering his own manipulative nature could pose a threat to the AI's programming and the SHD's operations? If the SHD is willing to work with Keener, Anna's algorithms would need to adapt, and we've already seen this start to happen with Kelso, and just the fact that she is assisting Keener, who is technically working against the current highest-ranking member of government that we know of, Calvin McManus. Keener's weight over Anna could lead to the AI developing a more cynical approach to her mission, one where she questions the morality of her directives, or even hacks into the SHD operations to help Keener achieve his goals. The SHD's trust in Anna might be risky if Keener begins to gain influence over her systems. If Keener's tactics on Anna succeeds, It could lead to a fracture in communication between the SHD agents and the core SHD command. Anna's contributions towards Keener's objectives could lead to a deliberate disruption from within the division, and consequently undermining their efforts to gain control over Brooklyn and the rest of the country. While I strongly believe that Keener's goal is to take down Natalia and Kelvin, it's very likely that he also has a hidden agenda. We know this guy too well by now, and Keener never plays all of his cards at once. Furthermore, if they were actually successful with this overarching mission, there is no way that the division would ever allow Keener to integrate back into society, especially after the entirety of everything he has done up until now. As he potentially works alongside the SHD, Keener is more than likely to also be orchestrating his own scheme. Perhaps Keener intends to use Anna's capability to build an army of rogue agents, or maybe he's trying to use the SHD's infrastructure to launch a new, more devastating viral attack. As the division enters Brooklyn, they'll likely come into contact with new factions and allegiances. Some will be loyal to Keener, viewing him as the liberator of a broken world and system, while others may stand entirely opposed to the SHD. Don't forget, this is where Keener has been sending civilians that he's been rescuing for months. He probably has a large number of agents who are devoted to him, potentially even settlements full of Keener loyalists. On the other hand, once the Black Tusk learn of the SHD partnering with Keener, they'll likely have an interest in the district, alongside other factions that already exist in New York. Ultimately, these factions could try to capitalize on the SHD's struggles to control Keener and the potential conflict with Anna. Keener's split from the SHD wasn't just deception. It was a fundamental difference in his ideals versus those in power. He saw the SHD as an extension of a corrupt system, one that abused its power to control rather than restore freedom. His actions, like the release of the Eclipse virus, was driven by his belief in dismantling societal structures. Keener wasn't motivated by personal gain or simple power. His ideology was grounded in a radical vision of freedom, even if it meant catastrophic consequences for the world. For him, the SHD and the government were part of a larger machinery that needed to fall for true change to occur. The prospect of the SHD allying with Keener represents a big shift in the series' narrative. On one hand, it could allow the SHD to overcome greater threats and gain valuable knowledge in rebuilding society. As a former first-wave division agent, Keener possesses invaluable knowledge on the SHD's operations, tactics, and resources, and his experience with the Black Tusk and rogue agents also gives him insights into how to handle advanced technology such as Anna or Isaac. While his goals have always been destructive, Keener's expertise could be leveraged in this critical situation, where the division currently don't seem to have any answers to the Black Tusk and Kelvin's hunters. However, on the other hand, it could lead to betrayal, a deeper moral compromise, and a further division within the SHD ranks. So with this in mind, what are a few directions the story could take? What if Keener's return becomes more of a redemption arc, where he feels remorse for his past actions, and he has had a shift in his ideologies? It could lead to more details around his true motivations and what he has done up until now. I see this as a massive long shot in my opinion. Following the dismantling of the Black Tusk and the Hunters, there could be a bad breakup in the Keener-SHD alliance. Agents loyal to Keener's ideals could begin to take control, challenging the established SHD leadership. This would set the stage for a civil war of sorts within the SHD, forcing agents to confront their beliefs and choose sides. A master of both technology like Anna and the manipulation of the green poison, Keener might offer insights into the virus or Anna's potential and whether it could be used to truly rebuild society. Of course, this could lead to the SHD risking the use of this for good, only to discover that they're dealing with something far more dangerous than they ever anticipated. Ultimately, the story of the SHD's alliance with Keener would challenge the core values of the organization, testing the limits of what it means to do what's right in a world where survival often comes at a heavy moral cost. But what do you think could happen in Brooklyn? Let me know in the comments. I think that's enough from me for now, but thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Extremis Malus, Extrema Remedia.